Yo, what's good, yo? I'm JB Hoops, and today I'm breaking down the game of the best shot creator in this class, that being the 6'4" combo guard out of the G League Ignite, Jaden Hardy. Jaden Hardy started off his time in the G League slow, but over the G League Ignite tour, in which he played 13 games, he averaged over 21 points per game, along with 4 rebounds and almost 4 assists, shooting 40% from the field and a much improved 34% from 3. And let's break down his game. I'm going to start off by talking about his biggest strength, which is definitely his shot creation ability. He's definitely in contention for one of the best shot creators in this class, if not the best. He's a high-level space creator who is adept at making tough shots. He has a super deep offensive bag with step backs, pull-ups, side steps, fadeaways, you name it, he's got it. And he's super consistent with his step back shots. Hardy can create from the perimeter and in the mid-range. His tight handle allows him to rapidly rise up into his shot, and he's unfazed by contests and can score with whoever guarding him. He also has a super nice hezi, and he consistently uses the threat of his jumper to his advantage. He's effective as a pull-up scorer in ISO scenarios, but especially in the pick and roll against drop coverage, which is the most common pick and roll coverage in the NBA. Hardy can score in the mid-range in any way. He can create off the dribble on the perimeter, but the main overall concern with Hardy's game is his decision making and shot selection. Since he's not a premier athlete, he'll need to be able to create a lot of space and knock down a lot of tough shots to be effective at the NBA level. Another key part of his game is his shooting. Jaden Hardy has a super smooth stroke with deep range, a nice pull-up jumper, and he's a super confident shooter. If you give him any sort of space, he's pulling from deep, but he can also pull the trigger quick if teams go under in the pick and roll. And he's just deadly as a shooter and scorer. Over the G League Showcase and G League Ignite Tour, he shot 35 of 86 on catch and shoot threes, which is 40.7%, which is crazy good, especially for how poor his 3-point percentage looked early on. And over the 13-game G League Ignite Tour, he shot 34% from 3 overall. So I think even if all falls to shit, he's going to be a great shooter in the league. I think it might take him a little time to get some good shooting splits in the NBA. He might follow in the same trajectory as a guy like Jalen Green did in terms of shooting, and that's how good of a shooter and shot creator I think Jaden Hardy is. But long term, I believe at worst he's going to be a guy who can be a knockdown shooter and score in bunches. Next up, I want to talk about playmaking and passing, but also his handle specifically. Jaden Hardy's a crafty combo guard with a tight handle. He has excellent creativity and shiftiness with his dribble, and he's one of the best space creators in this class. He gets defenders on their heels and is able to quickly rise into his shot, or force the defense to collapse and kick out to a shooter. He plays at his own pace in the pick and roll, and he's great at accelerating and shifting gears to create space. Now in terms of passing, I think he has a lot more to offer than he displayed during his stint in the G League. The Ignite this season had no spacing at all and far less talent than the NBA. I think he'll be a solid playmaker in the league, capable of operating in the pick and roll and being a lead guard at times. But I think he'll specialise as a secondary ball handler in the pick and roll because he's such a good scorer and he uses the threat of his jumper so well to set up teammates. He's good at getting downhill to score for himself, but he can also make quick reads, finding open guys in the corners, cutters. He had a super good connection with his role man, which was mostly Michael Foster Jr., who's another draft prospect. And he also threw a couple nice skip passes over the season, which were pretty impressive. And on top of all that, he's also a very good pocket passer, looking like James Harden out there. And I just think he has so much more to offer as a passer and playmaker than he showed, although he did average about 3.2 turnovers, and even more in the showcase. So there's a little bit of a concern there, but I think with the less defensive attention he gets in the NBA, as well as more spacing and talent, he's going to rack up the assists pretty quick, and impress a lot of people with his passing ability. Next up, I want to talk about his defense. This is probably one of the main concerns I have with Hardy, especially early on in his career. The main question is if he will be able to hold up and not be too much of a defensive liability. He's got solid size, strength, and length with a 6'9" wingspan, so he should at least be able to hold up against bad offensive players. But in watching some of his games, I've noticed he can be flat-footed, especially on his closeouts, and the lack of athleticism just doesn't allow him to recover like some other prospects can, especially like his teammate Dyson Daniels. He also doesn't get down low enough in his defensive stance, so he just gets beat too easy on the ball. He's also pretty poor at navigating screens, both on and off the ball. He gets caught on them a lot and just kind of gets taken out of the play. But in saying that, I don't think he'll be as bad as he was in the G League in the NBA. I'm pretty confident that the offensive volume he had in the G League had a significant impact on his effort and awareness levels on the defensive side of the ball. He's got quick enough hands, solid measurables, and decent size to be at least a solid defender in the NBA. The last thing I'm going to talk about is his finishing ability. I think this is the most concerning thing with Hardy's game, because he finished terribly at the rim, converting on just 38.6% of his attempts. I think a lot of the issues come down to him not being a great athlete. He doesn't have a super explosive first step, and he just struggled finishing through contact in the G League. But there's also not a whole lot of spacing in the G League, so with more spacing he should get a few more easy attempts. But he also just doesn't have that vertical burst to quickly rise up and finish around the rim. Though there was a few promising flashes throughout the season, he proved that he can be a capable straight line driver, he can punish bigs that are switched out to him on the perimeter, and he has pretty good strength and balance around the rim. But I also did notice that he struggles finishing with his left hand, and he does get blocked a whole lot. And I think a lot of that comes down to his lack of athleticism and burst, so that's the main concern I have with Hardy's game. As for a draft projection for Hardy, I think there's a lot of potential there, and I even think he has the potential to average over 25 a game and be a playoff team's #1 option. He's just so special as a shot creating talent that, unlike a lot of people, I have not dropped him off into the 20s. I think that is just crazy. I think he'll go somewhere between 8 and 15, but in my opinion he should definitely be in the lottery. But I think if he slips past 12 or 13, there's just no chance you can pass up on him. Alright, that's all I got for this one. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment down below, subscribe for more. JB Hoops, out.